I'm talking about mess in the palace, madness in the nation. Mess in the palace, madness in the nation. For those taking notes. About a week ago, I went through a training as a mediator, so I'm a certified professional mediator, CPM. And during this training, something happened. My lecturer who was taking us through the mediation training said some things that I thought I knew, but he just gave me some names and helped me to understand that there's an issue about conflict. Anyone who has ever been in a conflict? You've ever been in a conflict where you feel uncomfortable? There's an exchange. Okay, so I discovered there are two kinds of conflict. There's an interpersonal conflict with someone outward, then there's intrapersonal conflict. The worst one is not the inter, is the intra. Anyone who has ever been conflicted within, there's someone who looks like your wife or husband to be, and you look at them and like, it's them. But the way they look at you, they don't even look at you, okay? And like, they're not, see, it's like you are in one street and they're in another street. Like, will I tell them or will I not? I mean, you see them around you, but they behave as if they don't do anything. Or it is end month and the landlord is reminding you, hey, it is 7th. When are you paying? And you've done all that you could do. And there's nothing. And you start wondering, so do I still show up outside my door, or I just lock this door and stay? Like the young man I was counseling who stayed in the house for 2 months, refused to open. People did not know he was in. But he said, I'm not going out, because a young lady he had hoped to marry just told him on his face, not you. And they had begun planning the wedding. And he discovered she was going out with his best friend. So by the time I was meeting him, the guy was going too close to Langata, the cemetery. Too close. He had gone past the mortuary. I'm telling you. But because of intrapersonal, he was conflicted. How can she walk away? And so there's a story here I want to show you that there's an intrapersonal conflict. So I want to just make reference. Why mess in the palace? So I'm looking at two ways we respond to conflict, because you'll see how this plays. There are two ways we respond to a conflict. The first one, we walk away. Number two, power play. You either walk away or power play. So you'll see as we go whether you are the person who walks away or the person who ubabe. It's called ubabe in Kiswahili. Yeah, you look okay, but you're not. You fura, bloated. And so there's a story about the king's house. The king is David, a man after God's own heart. And the reading is 2 Samuel chapter 13. A bit long of a reading, but I'm a quick reader. I'll read from verse 1 of 2 Samuel 13, the story of Amnon and Tamar. Verse 1 to 22 of 2 Samuel 13. Allow me to read. In the course of time, Amnon, son of David, fell in love with Tamar. Please listen. After he fell in love, who did he fall in love with? The beautiful sister of Absalom, son of David. Amnon is a son of David. He falls in love with the beautiful sister of Absalom, who is the son of David. So who is Tamar to Amnon? Who is Tamar? Half-sister. If you go to the Old Testament, the Torah, the Old Testament, it is forbidden in the Mosaic law for someone to marry his half-sister or even to claim to fall in love. It's in the Torah. Did Ammon know? I think he knew, because David would have taught him. David was a psalmist. He would have taught this to Ammon. But let's go on verse 2. Sometimes we forget what we know selectively because of the flesh. Selective? Preach with me. Verse 2. Amnon became so obsessed with his sister Tamar, oh, now we are being told who she is, with his sister Tamar, that he made himself ill. She was a virgin, and it seemed impossible for him to do anything to her. Why? Because she's the sister. It looked obvious, but sometimes the obvious things are not so obvious. Verse 3. Now Amnon had an advisor. How many guys have advisors? Best friend, BFFs? Anyone here with advisors? People who, when you are stuck, they call on them. Hey, man, tell me, do I look okay? Anyone who dresses and look for someone, do I look okay? Can I go out in this? Anyone who seeks advice, counsel, when you guys don't have oh, thank you. My hand is, you saw the mirror, but you still ask, am I okay? Advise us. Okay, there you go. And so, Ammon had an advisor, and his name was Jonadab, son of who? Shimea. And David's brother Jonadab was a very shrewd man. He asked Amnon, why do you, the king's son, look so haggard morning after morning? Won't you tell me? Amnon said to him, I'm in love with Tamar, my brother Absalom's sister. Verse 5, the plan. Jonadab comes up with a plan. Go to bed and pretend to be ill. Already he was pretending, so just emphasis. Go to bed, pretend to be ill. Jonadab said, when your father comes to see you, say to him, I would like my sister Tamar to come and give me something to eat. Let her prepare the food in my sight. What disease is this? So I may watch her and then eat from her hand. To cure a disease, your sister prepares food in your sight, and you watch as she prepares. That needs a diagnosis. Maybe DSM-6, DSM-5. For those psychologists in the house, we have a book called DSM-5. Maybe that's the book for diagnosing conditions. I need to check one for that this young man was suffering for. Verse 6. So Amnon lay down and pretended to be ill. When the king came to see him, Amnon said to him, I would like my sister Tamar to come and make some special bread in my sight so I may eat from her hand. David, okay, I was waiting for David to react like, excuse me, did I hear right? You are sick and you want your sister to make food in your sight so that you can be okay. Okay, but what did David do? David sent word to Tamar at the palace. Go to the house of your brother Amnon and prepare some food for him. So Tamar went to the house of her brother Amnon, who was lying down. She took some dough, kneaded it, made the bread in his sight, and baked it. Then she took the pan and served him the bread. But he refused to eat. Send everyone out of here. Amnon said so. Everyone left him. Then Amnon said to Tamar, when just the two of them in the room, bring the food here into my bedroom. If it was a soundtrack, movie producers, this needs to be a scary sound. So that I may eat from your hand. And it's the two of them. And Tamar took the bread she had prepared and brought it to her brother Amnon in his bedroom. But when she took it to him to eat, he grabbed her and said, come to bed with me. Who? My sister. Okay, let's continue. I'm getting emotional. Verse 12. No, this is what Tamar, no, my brother. At least Tamar knew what was to be done. She had some sense of morality. Something, have you ever been in a situation where you knew something was not right? Did you speak up? But some of us like, okay, this looks weird, but let's just play along. Not Tamar. She protested. No, my brother. She said to him, don't force me. Such a thing should not be done where? Not here, not in this room. In the territory of Israel. We are God's children. She took the geographical map of Israel and brought some sense by reminding her brother Amnon that, hey, we belong to the royalty. We are the chosen nation. We cannot be disgraceful in our deeds. That's why she dropped the Israel there. Don't do this wicked thing. What about me? Verse 13. Where could I get rid of my what? Disgrace. She called it the sin what it is. Some of us like baptizing sin so that it has a Christian name. Not Tamar. She calls it disgrace upon me. Because she knew who she was. And what about you? Even you. Okay, you are the aggressor. But let me tell you, if you thought it's about me, even you are an Israelite. You are the son of a king, so you are a prince. And guys, let me tell you, Ammon was the firstborn son of David. He was the heir to the throne. Son of Ahinoam. Firstborn. Okay, so what is... And then he says, she goes on, you would be like one of the wicked fools in Israel. Please speak to the king. He will not keep me from being married to you. But he refused to listen to her. And since he was stronger than she, he raped her. Then Amnon hated her with intense hatred. In fact, he hated her more than he loved her. He had loved her. Amnon said to her, get up and get out. I'm imagining the state of Tamar. Take advantage of me, do what you want, and then now close me out and chase me like a dog. No. Verse 16, Tamar retorted, no. She said to him, sending me away would be a greater wrong than what you have already. Even after the rape, Tamar still has some sense of sanity in her, saying, don't chase me out. At least there was a way of redeeming such a situation. If a man did that, you are supposed to pay the full bride price for this woman to redeem her. So can we sort this? Let's go to the king, say what you have done. At least let's manage this thing in a dignity, like Israel, like our identity demands. Not Amnon. The guy was gone. He already had gotten what he wanted. Oh my God. Okay. Verse 16. No, but 16b. But he refused to listen to her. Verse 17, he called his personal servant and said, get this woman. Now she's just a woman. Get this woman out of my sight and bolt the door after her. So his servant put her out and bolted the door after her. She was wearing an ornate robe, for this was the kind of garment the virgin daughters of the king wore. Tamar put ashes on her head and tore the ornate robe she was wearing. She put her hands on her head and went away, weeping aloud as she went. Her brother Absalom said to her, has that Amnon, your brother, been with you? How did Absalom know that something wrong had happened to Tamar? Meaning that it was so obvious to Absalom that Amnon was harboring some lustful thoughts towards Tamar. He knew. I just wonder, what did Absalom do? Because the first question he asked the sister, has that brother of yours, Absalom, done something? And that's exactly what had happened. Be quiet. Then this is what Absalom tells Tamar. Be quiet for now, my sister. He is your brother. My foot. Don't take this thing to heart. And Tamar lived in her brother. You didn't hear that. And Tamar lived in her brother's Absalom house, a desolate woman. When King David heard all this, he was furious. He should have been. And Absalom never said a word to Amnon, either good or bad. He hated Amnon because he had disgraced his sister Tamar. Friends, let me just dive in, because a number of things stand out that I want us to pick up very quickly. And I look at something here that I'm wondering, how did we get here? There are 5 styles of managing a conflict situation. I feel like Amnon at the start of this story was having an intrapersonal conflict. He's wondering, should I do this to my sister? And because he's so conflicted, he reaches to advisor Jonadab. He asks for advice in this, what is the battle within him. And yes, he's pushed on to do, and he's given a scheme of what to do. He goes ahead and does it. And as I look at this, his style of conflict management, I look at a man who was willing to compromise. One of the styles of managing conflict is compromising. What is to compromise? Let us meet somewhere in the middle. And he stretches the compromise to competition. It is about me having my way. It's my way or the highway. And so he does not care. He uses his strength, physical strength. Say, I will have you because I want you. And if once you serve me the food, she was trying to bring sanity when the food was being served. The guy grabbed because he knew, I am stronger than you. There are some people who do wrong because they know they can do it. The enemy has lied to them that in the heat of the moment they can win. You are a trophy, and all they need is to conquer. And so, friends, as I'm looking at this story, what am I calling mess in the palace? I thought in the house of King David, there should have been a little more order, until I looked back. How many wives did King David have at this point in time? Allow me to share with you, David, the wives that I noticed by this time David had. One of the wives of David was called Michal. There was Eglah. There was Bathsheba, Abigail. There was Eglah, another one. Then Ahinoam. There was Haggith. And then there was Abital, there was the Shulamite, and then there was Maacah. There are about 10. Those are the official ones. This is a man who was busy. And he was a man in battle. So he goes to war, conquest. Women are singing. What did the women sing when David did that thing over Goliath? David has killed his, Saul has killed his 1,000, and David has killed his tens of, and David must have just like, endelea your chorus. So I'm imagining, this guy is a man who, he has it taught together. In war, you couldn't fight this guy. And then at home, he has 10 wives, official, and counting. No wonder when there's this crisis in the palace, there's so much mess that Amnon has enough time to deliberate over this thing, stew over it until he seeks advice from Jonadab, gets advice, he grabs his sister, rapes her, and then the king only hears. How big was the palace? Some of us, the problem we have is God blessed you too early. God should have given you a one-room house so that you can see everything within reach. I say that because 2 months ago, I visited Johannesburg. I was going to do discipleship in Joburg. I met a man in Joburg who has he's been the gold market. Real gold, not Kenyan gold, real gold. So I went to his house, and I saw people who operate in gold, who is an original South African, a man who loves God and blessed with resources. I walked into that house, and I was given a wing. A wing. Okay. Yes, wing. The wing had 2 bathrooms. Hallelujah. In that house, you can stay for 1 month and you won't meet with this guy. If he chooses to use another, you can't meet. And I said, if trouble was happening in this house and someone is messing up, how would you know? So some of us need a one-room house so that you are in control. Okay. I'm saying that because I kept on, when this story is going on, I kept on, where was King David? Was he in the life of these children? I see a dysfunctional family. If you think dysfunctional family started today, Angalia Bible, so much Bible stories. Zico, this is incest happening in the palace. The palace is messy. But the king is busy serving God's people. We can serve God and totally be out of place in his will. But God is a gracious God. If there's a man I love in the Bible, it's called David. King David, I love that man. But why does the Bible expose the underbelly of its heroes? So that God can show you that we are normal. You know, some of us, once you have some kind of, I'm a priest of the Anglican Church. I'm an ordained priest of the Anglican Church. I used to wear a collar every Sunday until I realized I wanted to dance and just be free. Then I'm like, you know, in that now, my Anglican collar, no, there are things I was doing here you can't do. One time I went somewhere and I was dancing. I think I went to minister in Congo. And I was told, because you're a priest, that's why we gave you a chance to come and minister here. So wear your collar. So I went with my collar in this church. And the worship was shaking like yours of elevation. And then a guy tapped me and said, Reverend, people are looking. I said, so where is the platform? So some of us are performing to the public gallery. We don't realize that God wants you, he wants us to be in the audience of one, and that is him. Friends, I am looking at this story and I keep asking, where was David as a king and a father to these children? A great king, but in this house there's mess in the palace. So what was the state of the nation? No wonder in the ordaining of a deacon, if you look at what Paul gives in Timothy, he must be a man who is in control of his family. What's the place of the whole house? There are some things that you cannot claim to do them outside if you don't do them at home. So ask your neighbor, how is your home? That's a bit uncomfortable. How is your home? How is family? Ask them, how is family? Because let me tell you guys, I say that because, guys, listen, my dad is alive. He's 94 years old. He's very strong. I was with my dad 2 days ago. He calls me Jaduong. Now, for those who come from USA, when your dad calls you Jaduong, it's confusing. Jaduong means mzee. So my dad is 94, I'm 50, and he calls me Mzee. I'm 50. When my dad calls me Mzee, I'm like, why does he call me Mzee? Because I'm an Anglican priest, and my dad is a true Anglican. When someone is made a priest, reverend, he honors me. In fact, when he speaks to me, I've noticed he doesn't look at me in the eye. He talks, I'm like, Daddy, what changed? And I used to be that bad boy. Dad respects me. It scares me sometimes. Now, that man used to be so harsh and tough that he would come to church on Christmas Day. My dad would come on Christmas Day, and people knew where he will sit. When he arrives, his seat was reserved. And it was once a year. Because when he left the church, the pastor knew he came. You know what I mean? When he left, you'd know he came. So that's why his seat had to be reserved. And guys, some of the messes I saw in our house, messes, including mine, the guy was so respected outside. But at home, MIA. That's why I vowed. But as you heard, the last 10 months I've been to 10 countries. One of the things I've done, I've told my bosses, whenever I get a chance to travel, when I come back, I close off 1 week. And I try to just ensure that I pour into there. Times I've gone to his school, I've told the teachers in charge, allow me to see my sons. I'm about to travel. I'll be away for long. I want to meet them. Have I done that? We sat in a room and we talked, Daddy, son, because I wanted them to know, I can't parent through remote control. This young man is here. I want him to know what Daddy does. So that he doesn't have a phantom of who a pastor is. I want him to see whether this is a life he can choose. When he hears I want him to know. I want them to know what I've been on. And I tell them as much as I can. Because I realize that's where my dad failed me. God bless him. But that's where he failed me. I began sleeping around with girls when I was 10. Yes. I was deep in pornography and masturbation. By the age of 15, I was messed up. And no one knew. So in my book, The Software of Sex, that's what I talk about. I have a 10-year, I interviewed 8 people for this book, 8. Some of them, the guy who sat with me as we were going through story by story told me, Pasi, there are others we have to edit. But we are editing, but they were coming from children. Incest, adultery, right in our homes. But when we show up, hallelujah, holiness. And if you wear white like me, it's what I long for. So take my hand and form me. It's that time we are repenting of what you did yesterday. But because we love drama. So when you see me dancing, I dance like cow. I am done because I know what I'm doing is legit. God knows my heart. Ask your neighbor, is your worship legit? Ama ni bonoko. How did the palace get so messy? How did the palace get so messy? Someone abdicated their role. Someone was not alert. Friends, I've been a senior pastor of a church for 4 years, a parish. I can tell you the days I would call my elders in the boardroom, and I'll tell my elders, guys, we cannot do A, B, C, D. And someone will give me that look of, have you finished? And I'm like, yes, I've finished. And they're older than me. Then I say, as long as I'm the senior pastor in this church, this thing will be advertised. We will do it the right way. Guys, by the time I stopped being a senior pastor in 2019, I can tell you I'd ruffled enough feathers. If something is not straight, I do not see a zigzag line. When it is zigzag, I call it what it is. Because me, I want to see Jesus. I want to go to heaven, friends. I want to see him. You know, some of us have games. We play Kati with God, bladder. You know bladder? In, out, apart. That was, okay, those who are younger, you may not know that game. Because you guys play with this thing. Network PS. Kwa nyumba. Us, we played outside. Sometimes we are in the Lord. Sometimes we are apart. Out. Then we come in on Friday, Kesha. Then Saturday, we go and Tessa. Then Sunday, we are repenting. Monday, we are back. Tell your neighbor, Lord, have mercy. So what I'm seeing, guys, is Amnon and Tamar went so far because there was a wrong advisor called Jonadab. But Jonadab is not even the problem. There's an absence. And so by the time the rape happens, guys, I was shocked when I looked at the names of these guys. Would you know that Tamar, her name means palm tree? The name Tamar means palm tree. Palm tree is a symbol of fruitfulness. Amnon means faithful one or stable. Faithful. The guy who raped is faithful or stable. Absalom means his father's peace. His father. Now, if these characters had lived the fullness of their identity, their story would be different. And then the Bible says, after that rape, Tamar lived a desolate woman. Where? In her brother's house. She never saw fruitfulness. She didn't live up to her name. Guys, some of us have great godly, God gave you a great godly identity. Even your parents, when they are naming you, there was a story about you. My mom lost 6 children. Of the 13, we have lost 6. I came on the scene, she had lost twins. So 2 children were buried before me. They are twins. My mom hung on to me so much, she kept on telling the Lord, this one is mine. She was not born again, but she used to pray the Anglican prayer. For those who know. Whatever that, she used to pray and ask God, God, preserve this one for me. When I came from school and I got my D+ from 4, and I dropped it at mom, I was so suicidal, I tried to commit suicide 7 times. One time I took 14 malaria queen tablets, and I did a suicide note. And I said, I'll only miss my mom. 7 hours later, I woke up, I had vomited in my sleep, and all the tablets were there, and I'm the only one who knew what I was attempting. I knew something is wrong. When death refuses you, life had refused, death had refused. You know, I looked to the roof and said, God, what is it? Then I heard a voice so clearly telling me, I'm not yet done with you. Guys, tell your neighbor, God is not yet done with you. You could be so messed up, let me tell you, but God knows you are mess. The one who cleans the mess is God. When God enters that palace, the real king, he will clean it up. God cleaned me up from my suicidal attempts. That's why I went into training in counseling psychology. Because I was thinking the problem was external, but the problem was intrapersonal. I was not dealing with me. Until one day I went down and told God, God, you know what? If you're not killing me, tell me why you want me to be alive. And God told me, I'm sending you to nations. A guy called Reinhard Bonke. Anyone was at that name? I was on suspension, one of my many suspensions. Eldoret, Huruma Stadium. I'll never forget. Bishop J.B. Masinde was the interpreter. I was in Form 2. Nimekuja suspi. I went to a crusade in Huruma ground. Bonke is preaching. Man, I know how you start. And you know, he preached. And then I'm right at the back. We are too many. Then I start walking to the front during the altar call. I walk to the front. And I'm so close to the stage. He points and says, there's a young man there. In fact, right now, what I'm going to say will not look like it. The way you are so messed up, you're not in school, but you should be in school. God is going to send you forth to nation. I looked up and said, it cannot be me. In fact, I had sneaked to that. I had been told, don't go. But I went to that meeting, Mlango ya Nyuma. Then a prophecy is being said about going to nations to me. And he was pointing. He kept on pointing. I looked up. That young man. And I went up and he prayed. It has been fulfilled, guys. I have been to 17 countries preaching the gospel. I go in and out. Let me now tell you, bro. 3 weeks ago, so this will have been my 3rd week in the US. For the last 3 years, I've been in the US from end of October till Christmas. Because this is the time where there's Thanksgiving and fundraising. I work for an American organization. So the Giving Tuesday is a big one in the US. So we go for fundraising. So I should be out in the US fundraising. I remember telling my boss, allow me, I'm not coming to the US this year. My son is doing Form 4. And I don't want to be an absentee father. I want to pray on the ground. So I refused to go to the US because of my son, Victor. And my daughter, Lulu, who was a KIPSEA, whatever KIPSEA means. But she was a KIPSEA candidate. So I prayed for KIPSEA, then I'm in KCSE. I would have gone. Now, normally when I travel, like right now, by the time I come back, I can do a few things, for those who know. So when you refuse, But when I said I'm not going, they were like, is this guy normal? Which African diffuser is this? As in, when I come back, I can push my project. Serious. But I said, you know what? My son is more important than this pocket. God had to teach me that before now. Guys, let me tell you, there are some things you are going through right now. It's a school. Some of us, you think you are lacking. God is a school, it's a training ground. I know how to have too much, and I know how to have nothing. I know I knock at the door for my landlord, and I know when you have paid rent for 1 year. I know. I know when you meet your landlord and you have coffee, you buy him coffee. That's where I am right now. I can have coffee with my landlord. We are at peace. In fact, he suggests to me project. One of my guys was telling me there's a project he wants to do with me. I'm like, wow, how did I get here? Where your landlord has projects he wants you to do with them. But I used to duck. When they come, I go that way. I had to learn to be faithful in that season. So guys, the message I came to encourage someone, sometimes there's so much mess in the palace because the king is not in charge. But thank God there's another king. King Jesus. And if I go somewhere and the King of Kings is not in charge, I'm worried. Because earthly kings can fail. In fact, will fail. But the King of Kings will not fail. That's why I don't fear going down here. Because in my house, I'm the king. But I have a King of Kings. There are days I tell him, Lord, you blessed me so much. Let it not get over let the resources and the wealth, the favor, not get into my heart. It will corrode it. I'm so afraid of men's praise. When it gets to you, I run away very quickly. The reason I left a job 3 years ago, I realized I'd reached a point whereby now I was demanding, do you know who I am? God told me, when did you become anything? Just go back to Sunday school. I said that because where I was, in the institution where I was, as a minister, I could not sit this side. I had to sit in a place here. So when you're looking, you look at me. Hey, you can't sleep on that altar banner. You have to do things. Keep your... Huh? I said, no. This is my test. No way. I want to be a worshiper. I want to look to him, guys. That was a hard decision. It's personal. I don't care about that. But that's, there are some things God has to deal with you personally. Ask your neighbor, has the Lord ever dealt with you personally? Has he ever... Watch a group. There's a group calling, then there's a personal call. Guys, today I celebrate a lady by the name Tamar. Tamar had so much pressure, so much going on, but she kept her sanity to the end. She didn't forget she's a child of the promise. She didn't forget she was a princess. Please tell your neighbor, don't forget who you are. Don't forget who you are. Even in crisis. It's easier to forget when things are... But when you're in crisis, we forget quickly. I know Christians who, when you're given that message, your text comes through. You owe X amount. Hey, you start, who do I call? Who is on your speed dial? Listen, call Jesus. Call Jesus. Guys, I close with this testimony. I was in a situation like Ammon and Tamar one time, personally, where someone came to my room. Luckily for me, it was not my sister. It was a worshiper like me in St. James Buruburu. And I'm also worshiping. And we are home in Inako Umoja. Just that. How we had come from mission, we stayed for long and we're just talking. The next thing I know, things 1 + 1 is 3, not 2. I said, no, I know math. I got D+, but this one. I said, the way things are going, I told this person, now is the point where you live. I told her, now you live. How? So yeah, you're living. We are the two of us, and these bodies are not stone or wood. Because the next thing will happen will not good. And I said, I opened the door. They said, I'm not leaving. I said, hey! I said, Shaitan, I leave you with my house. And I left. When we met in church on Sunday, it was a hard one on the other side. Me, I was like, I had to do it. But many years later, we met. She's an amazing lady today. And she always reminds me, hey, uliniokoa. She said, what you saved the day. Very few said, my last boyfriend, anytime I realized that was my struggle, she would tell me, they'll just go, but I've never seen a man walk out. I said, you know what? But Joseph did it. Why do we read the guys? Bible is not storybook. We read to learn from those guys. Even their weaknesses, we can learn from them. If there's a parent here who feels like you've abdicated, please listen. We can learn from David. Because God is a God of second chances. He's a restorer. God of restoration. I speak with a lot of humility. Guys, people are struggling in the area of their sexuality. I say this because right now I'm dealing in my counseling space with LGBTQ. I've met people who have told me, I don't want the opposite. I want the same. Because men are trash. Women are gold diggers. You are bashing the opposite gender. Then someone tells you the one that is okay is the same sex. There are all kinds of lies from the enemy. Call yourself to a meeting. One of my buddies like saying, Nijikute. I used to wonder, what does Nijikute mean? Then she told me, it means I find myself doing that? No. I will call myself to a meeting first. Please tell your neighbor, call yourself to a meeting today. Call yourself. If you don't want to go the unknown way, call yourself to a meeting. Say, this is my sister. How can I be getting in love? This is not love. It is lust. Guys, if you're struggling with a sin, give it the right name. Don't baptize the sin. Don't say, I only struggle with looking at. I was in a place 2 days ago, and this young man was watching some movies. Very, very violent movies in the night. And we're in an Airbnb. And I looked at the young man, and the more he kept on watching, and he's newly born again. I was like, this is not. So I left and went to my room. I come back, he's still watching. Then he goes to bed, and this young man was having serious, crazy, violent dreams. I just had I'm like, so I went to him, what's wrong? I told him, exactly, this is the byproduct of what you're watching. Garbage in, that's why you're being nyongwad. They are now murdering you. Guys, some of us, you need to clean the content of entertainment. What are you watching? You can't be single, you don't have a husband, you're marrying in the year 2026, and you're so busy with romantic movies. You watch to the last one before you sleep. You wonder why you're struggling with masturbation. That's why I wrote a book, The Software of Sex. Start measuring. Know what is good for you and what is trash. And walk away. Tell guys, I'm not coming for that one. It is not going to feed me. Guard with diligence your heart. Because the issues of life, Proverbs 4:23, issues of life flow from your heart. Guard your heart. When I'm away in the US for 2 months, there's a time I was in a place called, I was in Atlanta, Georgia, at the airport. I missed my flight. 9 hours. This young damsel, American girl, comes to me. It was in the summer. She comes to me with a bandana in the name of a skirt. And I'm lying like this, and I looked up and I saw to the Holy of Holies. I said, hey! I picked my bag and I was like, I'm gone. And she was shocked. I just said, I can't stand here. This is too much. When a rabbit starts chasing a dog, there's poison involved. Because the opposite should happen. Amen? I'm a coward. There's some situation when you come to me, I run away. Because I know myself. I guard it for Ruth.